This episode of Bend the Knee is brought to you by Sir David the Huntsman, whose words are, "You make me quiver."
Hello and welcome to Bend the Knee, a Song of Ice and Fire podcast. I am Sir Matt, the Butt Knight.
And I am Sir Ezra the Watchful. Welcome to our Song of Ice and Fire book club. Today we are into chapter 36 of... Wow, let's start over. What am I doing? Do I have the wrong doc open?
No. Sorry, no, you're right. It is 35. That's 36.
Episode 30... This is chapter 36. Episode 36, chapter 35. Got it. Okay, here we go. Let's do it again.
Hello and welcome to Bend the Knee, a Song of Ice and Fire podcast. I am Sir Matt, the Butt Knight.
And I am Sir Ezra the Watchful. Welcome to our Song of Ice and Fire book club. Today we're into chapter 35, Eddard 9 of A Game of Thrones. And in A World of Ice and Fire, we are discussing the Iron Islands.
Woo, 35, man. That seems like a lot.
Yeah, I know. Actually, some books that would be it. You know, you're nearing the end, right? But we are not. We still have quite a ways to go.
We still have quite a ways to go in A Game of Thrones, and then the other books, some which haven't come out yet, but some which are coming out soon, and we're going to talk about some of that here in a bit. But first, Sir Ezra, how are you doing today, man?
Well, guys, if you, I actually think I'm getting a cold, to be honest with you.
Mm-hmm.
And you know,
you did some traveling.
I did some traveling, and I also think
you went. Is it the Vale? Is that what you would call that area of the United States, the Northeast?
I did.
It's kind of like the Vale.
Yeah,
Canada's really like the North.
Yeah.
So yeah.
I was over in the Vale. I went for a conference over there, and I think I may have picked up something. I might just be sick all week. You know what I'm saying? It's one of those weeks you get back.
Hey man, you got, especially those brothels in the Vale, you really got to be careful because it's easy to pick something up.
Exactly.
Okay?
Right. So that's where I've been all week, and exhausted. I was exhausted while I was there, exhausted getting back, and I thought I'd have more time. You know, I was like, oh, cool, I'll have some time to kind of do some stuff. Heck no, man. Like, it was like 12 to 14-hour days of just like listening, note-taking, networking, just absolutely, crazy stuff. And basically it made me realize that I want to quit my job. I want to quit my job, and I want to just,
Hey, me too.
Gosh.
Okay.
Can't we just podcast full time? Like, what the heck, man?
That's the goal, man. That's the idea. Maybe someday, but yeah.
Anyway.
Hey, man. I'm right there with you, man. I've been recording for all my other projects. Like, I recorded, last Monday, recorded Friday night, last night, doing this this morning, recording tomorrow. Just getting it going.
It's a lot.
Cranking it up. So
yeah.
Then I'm gonna go have some dinner later tonight. And got a lot to do tomorrow. So just busy. But something cool to bring up here, sent to us by Sir Fluffhead of Gamehenge, or formerly known as Brown Ben Zaza. The table of contents for Fire and Blood.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. And first of all, let me just say, did you look at the picture?
Yeah, I did.
Another one of those pictures that's going to be,
wow.
I just have one thing to say.
Yeah.
Visenya Targaryen, what's up?
I know, man. Everybody's, it's like the way they make her sound, it's like Visenya's not. No, I mean, take another look at Visenya.
Mm-hmm.
Man. Yeah. I mean, look at Aegon sitting on that throne, just,
Mm-hmm. He's like, hey, things are great, right?
He's got that crown. He's got his
I've got my two sister wives, I'm good to go. So
right, exactly.
Yeah.
So
anyway, all right. So we may actually spend a little bit of time here. So we're actually, I think, going to consider this kind of as our Raven this week because there's a lot to break down.
Yeah. Yep.
And it was actually a Raven, so thank you for sending that to us. So I'm just going to go through the chapter titles here. The Reign of the Dragon, The Wars of King Aegon I, Three Heads of the Dragon, The Government of King Aegon I, The Sons of the Dragon, which I'm going to presume is the same novella. We're going to presume it's just that part. Yeah. Aegon's Conquest, A Prince Becomes King, The Rise of Jaehaerys I, 49 AC, The Year of Three Brides, Rulers Abound, Time of Probation, The Renewal of the Empire, Birth, Death, and Betrayal under King Jaehaerys I, Jaehaerys and Alicent, Triumphs and Tragedies, Jaehaerys and Alicent, Politics, Offspring, and Anguish, The Heirs of the Dragon, A Question of Succession, The Deaths of the Dragons, The Blacks and the Greens, The Deaths of the Dragons, Son After Son, The Death of the Dragons, The Red and the Golden Dragon, The Death of the Dragons, Rhaenyra, Triumphs, The Death of the Dragon, Rhaenyra's Fall, The Death of the Dragon, The Short, Sad Reign of Aegon III, Aftermath, The Hour of the Wolf, Under the Regents, The Hand Under the Hood, Under the Regents, War and Peace and Livestock Markets, Under the Regents, The Voyage of Alan Oakenfist, The Lyseni Spring and the End of the Regency, The Succession of House Targaryen of Westeros. Wow.
Yeah, it's pretty awesome. Quite a bit
I'm
there.
interested in all of these chapters.
I know, me too.
I actually, maybe they may even expand on Sons of the Dragon, which we'd already previously covered in one of our Patreon Black Councils, which is one of the novellas. And so, I'm interested, man, all of it. And so after hearing those titles, which one are you most interested in, Sir Ezra?
Well, quite honestly, I was looking at how many of these headings had to do with Jaehaerys, and so there's so many. If you look at, let me count the chapters, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 7 or 8 chapters about him. And then you get into the succession is him passing it on to his grandson. And you look at the queen who was passed over, and I think it's the great the Council of 101,
right?
And so that's sort of the situation where they set up, that it's gonna the crown will be passed down to
Aegon the Second,
right, down to a male heir, and so very interesting there. But I just thought there's because he's the old king, right, who lives for so many years. There's definitely a story
and there's
to tell
nothing of him in World of Ice and Fire. Like it's such a short chapter.
Right, exactly. And he lives for such a long time and does so many things that I think that was, obviously it's intentional, because look how much he has here for Jaehaerys. I think he really wants to kind of,
which is awesome.
Yeah.
And the Death of the Dragons, which is going to be the Dance of the Dragons stuff.
Yeah.
Look how many chapters that is. Really, that's really going to start in the Heirs of the Dragons. So you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 chapters, and then you go to the Death of the Dragons, which is Aegon III. So after Dance of the Dragons, and then the one right after that just screams out to me. Aftermath, The Hour of the Wolf.
Yep. Absolutely.
Where what's his name? Oh God, not Cregan Stark, but
I think it is.
Is it Cregan Stark? No, Cregan Stark is the king who did not kneel, isn't it?
Well, now you got me thinking here. I don't know. Oh gosh, we'll have to look him up here. But yeah,
I'm gonna pull him up. But we had talked about that in World of Ice and Fire, a couple weeks back. That's where the Stark. I'm gonna pull him up here. Comes down and basically serves as hand of the king for like a day.
Right. Yeah. Well, yeah. And he does all.
It is Cregan Stark.
That's what I thought. Yeah. And so they have basically this big, he passes judgment. He kind of, kills a few people, sends some people to the wall, etc. Be nice to get a little more information on that. I think I'm with you on that. The Sons of the Dragon is probably going to be almost verbatim what we got, but what I can't imagine is you've got the Death of the Dragons, and they've broken it down in a different way, kind of leading into. This is where the novellas will kind of be neat if they weren't incorporated. Remember we did the Prince Aemon.
Prince. No, it wasn't Prince Aemon. It was oh God, Black. Oh God, how am I missing? missing his name. Darren. No. Jesus. I don't know.
Prince Aemon.
He has the same Daemon. It's Daemon Targaryen.
Oh, okay.
Is Daemon Targaryen, and then Daemon Blackfire, later they're almost like the same character, like the same thing happens to him. Daemon Targaryen is the rogue prince.
The Rogue Prince. Okay.
Right. And then you have the princess and the queen, which are those two almost Dance with the Dragons novellas. Yeah, and I'm kind of with you. I don't think that it's really going to be I mean, I think we'll have some stuff. It's going to be pulling from that, but I don't think it's going to be like Sons of the Dragon, where I think Sons of the Dragon is straight verbatim, word for word, just that novella.
Gotcha. Yeah. Wait. Say that one more time. You think what's going to happen?
So I think that the Sons of the Dragon chapter is going to be just straight from that book. I think it's going to be that exact thing. I don't think it's going to. I think it's like word for word. It's just going to be the Sons of the Dragon. But I'm thinking that the Dance with the Dragons chapters here, these 7 chapters, I don't think it's going to be like word for word pulling from the Rogue Prince and Princess and the Queen.
Yeah. Okay. That's what I was trying to get to. Is that?
Not. Yeah.
Is that the Rogue Prince is going to be probably left out of this? It's going to be its own type of thing because it does focus on. You're right, Daemon Targaryen and his brother Viserys and his daughter and all that good stuff with Rhaenyra. We'll still get all those characters, but it won't be from that perspective, from Prince Daemon's perspective. And even like you said, the when they get into the Dance of the Dragon, that novella, it's got to be different. You know what I mean? It's got to be more storytelling, or I wonder if it'll take a side or if it'll be, just because there are 2 sides there. It's like, is it from someone's perspective or is it going to be more historical? Like is he going to switch writing styles? Because if he does do something like the Sons of the Dragon, then you're still getting different dialogue between the characters, and you're getting more character building, I guess. I don't know. So
No, for sure. Yeah. So yeah, man. I mean, I'm just looking at all these. Let's just go through them here a little bit. So you have Reign of the Dragon: The Wars of King Aegon I. So I think that's going to be pretty similar to what we kind of get in World of Ice and Fire. It'll be a little more detailed, but that's just kind of, we know some of the battles, like Aegon's conquest in World of Ice and Fire is pretty detailed. So I think that's going to be pretty similar to that. 3 Heads of the Dragon: The Government of King Aegon. So that will be kind of new. Because we just get a little bit about his rule, and we know he established some laws and all those kinds of things. We get some of that in World of Ice and Fire, but I think that will be bigger. And then it goes to Aegon's conquest. So I think, like, because his initial war is to just kind of take over the King's Landing area, right? So Aegon's conquest actually could be pretty similar to what happens in World of Ice and Fire. But then it seems like it jumps. We have Sons of the Dragon, Aegon's conquest. The prince becomes king. The rise of Jaehaerys the First. That seems out of order.
Okay, well, so what I'm thinking is, if this is in order from what you've put in here,
right? It may not be. It was found. I found it. It was sent to us. I found it online. Yeah. Right. Maybe it is. I don't know. Maybe they're writing it in a weird way or something. I don't know.
Well, what it could be is that, like the title, Aegon's Conquest could be his attempted conquest of Dorne. You know what I mean?
Right. Okay.
Like full conquest. Versus the early wars. Because then, he establishes a government. He travels around. I think what you'll see in that second chapter, if this is correct, Heads of the Dragon, the government of King Aegon the First. I think, as you said, he's traveling from kingdom to kingdom. But what you'll get is you'll get the different. You'll get House Gardner, right? Or you'll get well, actually, no, because he defeated House Gardner, and then the the Tyrells hopped up there. Right. So, anyways, you'll get more of those family houses, and you'll get to see some of maybe their, just some neat, I don't know, different areas. Maybe there be different keeps that we'll actually go explore and things like that too, which would be kind of fun. So that'll be neat. But yeah. Then I think Sons of the Dragon, as you said, and then Aegon's Conquest is when he loses his sister, Rhaenys. Yep. So I think that might be what's happening there.
Yeah, and so then we have A Prince Becomes King, The Rise of Jaehaerys the First. That's going to be great. All of these Jaehaerys chapters are going to be great because clearly he's a great king and so much happens to the realm. Then you have 49 AC, The Year of Three Brides, Rulers Abound. time of probation, the renewal of the empire, birth, death, and betrayal under King Jaehaerys the First. That one I feel like is going to be really good.
Yeah. Yep. Agreed.
Yeah, and then Jaehaerys the First and Alicent, triumph and tragedies. So somewhere in here, and then this one after it, politics, offspring, and anguish, I think is where we'll get that segment we got where they're going north, where Alicent goes north to the wall. That little preview. I think it'll be in one of those two chapters. Gotcha.
Okay. Yep.
Yeah. Let's see. Then the heirs of the dragon, a question of succession. So this is again where that Dance of the Dragons gets ready to start.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Then you have the blacks and the greens, which actually the blacks and the greens actually takes place like before the Dance of the Dragons, before you could actually say the Dance of the Dragons officially starts. The blacks and the greens, you kind of get those two factions. So then you have Sun After Sun, the red and the golden dragon. Rhaenyra triumphs, Rhaenyra's fall. The short, sad reign of Aegon III, too. I mean, that's going to be another good chapter. But, yeah, Hour of the Wolf. Yeah, it's 6 days. I just pulled it up here. So 6 days, Cregan Stark goes down and serves as hand of the king. And that, yeah, which is going to be great, actually, because he's a boss, right? Like, just from the little bit we get in World of Ice and Fire, he just seems like an absolute boss.
Yeah. Well, hey, I got a quick question for you. So, what do you think? Like in the Hour of the Wolf, are they going to do anything? Like, will there be any surprises? You know what I mean? So some things that you're like we've been thinking about history in this certain way, and here's the things, and it's very much the Maesters have led us to believe in a World of Ice and Fire that events went this way, right? But then from like what perspective? Who's writing Fire and Blood? You know, is it another Maester? Is it from a Targaryen perspective? What's going on? What records are they looking at there? Because I'm guessing it's going to be, as you said, that they're writing this. They have to be writing this. Maybe Volume 1 is done from a Maester who lived during this first half of the Targaryens. You know? No,
it is, because Gur said, remember, around Comic-Con, the succession of House Targaryen of Westeros, we got there was a family tree. And the family tree has, I'm blanking, Aerys Targaryen, right? The first Aerys Targaryen, who was actually kind of a boss, and he is listed as prince. Remember, because he's the one that gets looked. He's the one that would have been the best king, but there's like the two people in front of him. Baelor the Blessed and Darren the Good, and then they both die, and he's like hand to both of them.
Yeah.
But he is listed as prince because at the time this was written, he would not have been king yet.
Gotcha. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. And I remember in that family tree we talked about several, maybe like a couple months ago or something when it came out. That some of the people who are just kind of listed as like unidentified are going to be like identified, right? If you go to like the wiki and stuff like that, we just know they had several children. We don't really know what happened to them. Gotcha. So yeah, and so Gur is we're gonna get a little more explanation as to what happened to some of those kids. I mean, I'm sure a lot of them are just gonna be like died in childbirth, or maybe lived to like 4 or something. But it's still just it's starting to expand the world. Which actually, which brings us to our next ones. One I think I'm actually kind of interested in is War and Peace and livestock markets, because I know it sounds totally boring, but it's actually kind of a huge chapter. I'm just presuming, because we're now going to get a little bit of like how economy works in the world, right? And I think that's cool. That's great for world building.
Well, it seems like it's kind of that day in and day out style that we might have with Dunk and Egg. You
get exactly.
Trading and whatnot. So. Oh, and that's under the regents, which is, remember, we had all those issues with, after the dance, you had all those various regents who were helping, Aegon the Younger, rule and stuff. And so later on, they actually, when you look at this, they don't want a bunch of regents, because the regents were kind of in power for a long time, doing different things, doing their own. There was a lot of plotting against each other, a lot of turmoil. So, That's gonna be neat.
Yeah, yeah. Aegon had the Regency Council of Aegon the Third. It's like Jane Eyre, Royce Caron, Torrin Manderly, Manfred Mooten, Grand Maester Munkin, Corlys Valerian, Roland Westerling.
Mm-hmm.
There's a ton of these people.
Yep.
Who he are the regents for him. So
yeah. So that'll be kind of neat to get more. See the political kind of backstabbing or maneuvering. That's taken on there in King's Landing with a young king. So,
yeah,
and then you've got the Lysine Spring and the end of the Regency. I don't really the Lysine Spring. What is that? I'm trying to remember.
I've heard it before.
Yeah, it's just I'm actually wondering if we covered it because I'm not remembering here what it is. It says not clear. A popular uprising by a certain family. Yeah, I don't really know here. Well, that's one of those things where I guess we'll have to figure out once we get the text.
Okay.
Yeah.
So okay, that's fine. We can go from there. And so we'll have more here in about a month. I'm looking at our document here, and I'm looking at that picture again, and the artwork that so far we have a couple pieces of artwork, and it all looks super cool. I feel like
looks really good.
Excited. So okay, all right. Well, should we go ahead and talk a little bit about the Iron Islands?
Yeah, and by a little bit, you mean a little bit, right? I mean,
yeah,
we're both
kind of
like it's not as interesting as one would,
Right.
I don't know. They just don't interest me, I guess.
They don't. I know. The Greyjoys have always been characters that I'm just not. I'm not particularly interested in. But I mean, we're still going to pick out some of the cool stuff from here and go from there. So, all right, the Iron Islands. Were the first men truly first? Most scholars believe they were. Before their coming, it is thought Westeros belonged to giants, the children of the forest, and the beasts of the fields. But on the Iron Islands, the priests of the drowned god tell a different tale. According to their faith, the Ironborn are a race apart from the common run of mankind. We did not come to these holy islands from godless lands across the sea, the priest Sauron Salttongue once said. Hold on. Mm-hmm. Priest Sauron? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, Gur, you're really letting some of your Lord of the Rings come on.
Influence. Okay. There you go. Good.
Yeah, all right. If we start talking about One Ring,
Oh God, look out.
All right. We came from beneath those seas, from the watery halls of the drowned god, who made us in his likeness and gave to us dominion over all the waters of the earth.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and and we had talked about way back in the day. It's believed that the salt chair, right, the Iron Islands kind of seat, was found. Like when the first men show up there, they kind of found it. So
right, and it actually goes on to say too somewhere that maybe you just read this, but that the giants and the children really were not.
Didn't really touch it.
Touch it. They didn't inhabit it, which makes you think there must have been something there that would keep them away from it, I just unless they're just not, seafaring folk and they didn't have a way to get over there, which could have been the case. So
yeah, right here it talks about a little bit more. The throne of the Greyjoys carved into. Hold on. Archmaester Herrig once advanced the interesting notion that the ancestors of the Ironborn came from some unknown land west of the Sunset Sea, citing the legend of the Seastone Chair. The throne of the Greyjoys, carved into the shape of a kraken from a oily black stone, was said to have been found by the first men when they first came to Old Wick. You can go way back. That's like first chapter of World of Ice and Fire.
Right.
Herrig argued that the chair was a product of the first inhabitants of the island, and only the later histories of maesters and septons alike began to claim that they were in fact descendant of the first men. But this is the purest speculation, and in the end, Herrig himself dismissed the idea, and so must we. Oh, so must we, huh?
Yeah, right.
Oh, yeah, you just have to believe it, okay?
Right. That's crazy.
Yeah, then it kind of goes on to talk about the drowned god a little bit, and the Ironborn and how the Ironborn have always kind of done their own thing. We've talked about that before when Aegon's conquest, right? And they tried to kind of instill the Seven over there, and it just didn't work.
Right. Well, I mean, so real quick, going back to the old gods, and you just brought up the Seven, but the old gods, the werewoods wouldn't grow there, so they had sort of no power. They couldn't see over on those islands to see what was happening, which I think is kind of neat because of the soil and because of the salt and the conditions there. The weirwood trees could not grow. So.
Yeah, this I found interesting here. Though most Ironborn have naught but scorn for the Seven of the South and the old gods of the North, they do recognize a second deity. In their theology, the drowned god is opposed by the storm god, a malignant deity who dwells in the sky and hates men and all their works. He sends cruel winds, lashing rains, and the thunder and lightning that bespeak his endless wrath.
Wow.
So that's interesting.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? Is that you have that's just kind of what you have here. Then this is also interesting is that there's 7 islands. Like Old Wick, Great Wick, Pike, Harlaw, Salt Cliff, Black Tide, and Orkmont. Which is just interesting, right? They have they have 7 islands. Maybe the 7 do have some kind of power there. I don't know. I'm just saying.
Yeah. No, it's
but it's just interesting, right? So you have, it's kind of like you have the old gods, which are their own thing, the 7, which is their kind of own thing, and then you have the Great Other and R'hllor,
right? Which
we kind of assume, like we kind of think about the Great Other almost as an old god, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's the case,
right? Yep.
Right. It could just, and so it's just interesting that all these gods do at least have some sort of opposition, or they have, there's aspects of them. They don't, like, there's not just a religion where they believe so far that they just believe in one thing. So.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. That is neat that they have their counter is the storm, god. Yeah. So. I don't know. Makes sense. One thing that I thought was interesting is you had this guy back in the day. It looks like the Ironborn used to fight amongst themselves quite a bit. Like they were fighting, and eventually they had a priest. I think his name's Galen Whitestaff, and who decreed that it was sinful for Ironborn to make war upon other Ironborn. And so once they kind of got united under that, that's when I think that raiding as a group sort of took place. Does that make sense? It's sort of like from there they were, and eventually they have they've got King's Moot and other things to where they're trying to get their first king. Says in the Age of Heroes though that they were ruled by what was the name of that king? The Grey King? Is that what it was?
Yeah. Hold on a second here. Let me just get this right. So first we have Sauron. Now we have a Whitestaff, and then we got a Grey.
Yeah.
Are we sure we're in the right books?
Well, here's the other thing. You've also got like King's Moot and then Entmoot are both things that are related too, which is crazy.
Yeah, Gur is, and obviously, and he has said on record he's a huge Lord of the Rings fan.
Yeah.
So, so
that's funny.
Maybe that's why he kind of did that with the Ironborn, since they really get like the least. I mean, Dorne almost in some cases has more attention than the Ironborn do.
Yeah, they do. Yep.
Right. So, so it talks to us a little bit more about kind of like the lands, just some of the things, just some things I've pulled out here that I always thought were kind of interesting. The soil of the Iron Islands is thin and stony, more suitable for grazing of goats than the raising of crops. The Ironborn would surely suffer famine every winter, but for the endless bounty of the sea and the fisherfolk who reap it. So, their lands are not really set up for them to be anything other than raiders, I would say, because they can't grow crops. Like, I don't really, if I were, that's probably why they rebel so often, is because it's they have it the hardest. Yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting. I just read something here too that I didn't realize, is that you had mentioned those 7 islands, and I guess when we were talking about Galen Whitestaff, he basically each island had their own king. Kind of thing. They had the Rock King, the Salt King, and so on. And then, eventually they put that aside and they united under the Driftwood King, which is cool. So I don't know. I just noticed. And also the bit about Kingsmoot that I was talking about there for a little bit is that the idea is that just because a Greyjoy dies doesn't mean another Greyjoy is going to take his or her place.
Right.
So that's why you've got the moot. But
yeah. Something else here. Archmaester Herrig has argued that it was the need for wood that first set the Ironborn on their bloody path of like reaping and stuff. In the dawn of days, there were extensive forests on Great Wick, Harlaw, and Orkmont, but the shipwrights of the Isles had such a need for wood that they just depleted their forests. So that's how so the Ironborn had no choice but to turn on the vast forests of the Greenlands, the mainlands of Westeros. So that's it was wood is really what caused them to, need to start reaping because they can't produce it themselves.
Right. Yep. Mm-hmm.
So yeah.
Interesting. Did you read anything about this? You know how we had during Aegon's conquest, the Greyjoys are not really in power.
Mentioned.
Yeah, it's actually House Hoare, right? So it was kind of their dynasty that had taken over, and a lot of the priests during that time saw them as false kings and false rulers. Right. So, I thought that was kind of neat because they just the way in which they almost, I don't know if they invade or how, I don't know how they really ascended to be, in control of the Iron Islands, but it happens, and the Greyjoys are not really around. Because I always thought that was interesting that they weren't there. I'm like, well, when did their dynasty start? When did it take off? What were they involved beforehand and then afterwards, or what? Whatever. So that's an interesting one to kind of look at and see how he came to power. Because you've got eventually his Harren's grandson, King Harren the Black, is the one who ordered the construction of Harrenhal, and so that's actually done under. Harrenhal was at one point an extension of the Iron Islands and that kingdom, if you will, which is crazy to think about because they had raided so far inland that they, were over by the God's Eye. So.
Yeah. What about? I'm looking here. The driftwood crowns.
Mm-hmm.
I think this is kind of cool. Just the different how they have like their own crown, right? It's not gold. It's it's driftwood is what they choose. In the Age of Heroes, the legends say the Ironborn who were ruled by a mighty monarch, simply known as the Great King, which had kind of mentioned there. His hair, his beard, and eyes were as gray as the winter sea, and from those he took his name. The crown he wore was made of driftwood, so all who knelt before him might know that his kingship came from the sea and the drowned god who dwells beneath it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the age of that Age of Heroes stuff will be really neat. I mean,
and what about this? The Grey King also taught men to weave nets and sails and carved the first longship from a hard pale wood of Yig, a demon tree who fed on human flesh.
What?
Yeah.
That's weird because is it a black tree? Is it kind of dark and black?
I don't know. That's all it really says.
Because it would be like,
or is right. It says the deeds attributed to the Great King by the priests and singers of the Iron Islands are many and marvelous. It was the Grey King who brought fire to the earth by taunting the storm god until he lashed down with a thunderbolt, setting a tree ablaze.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting. I just wonder about that tree because it's like the werewoods also take human sacrifices and things, and consume the blood.
I know. Maybe that's what it is, and they're just calling it a demon tree.
Yeah.
Maybe that's how it was written down.
Yeah.
The Grey King's greatest feat, however, was the slaying of Naga, largest of the sea dragons, a beast so colossal that she was said to feed on leviathans and giant krakens and drown whole islands in her wrath. The Grey King built a mighty long hall about her bones, using her ribs as beams and rafters. From there, he ruled the Iron Islands for 1,000 years until his very skin had turned as gray as his hair and beard. Only then did he cast aside his driftwood crown and walk into the sea, descending to the drowned god's watery halls to take his rightful place as its right hand.
Dude, isn't that so cool that he just the fact that you go from like pretty straightforward facts to like, and he ruled for 1,000 years. You know, it's
Right.
like, what do you believe? You know, like, did he actually, or was it a bunch of his descendants? And then finally one, you know, was crazy and walked, and they turned this into some story or legend. You know, it's just, I don't know. It's really cool.
Well, then it goes a little bit to explain more after that. It says the petrified bones of some gigantic sea creature do indeed stand on Naga's Hill on Old Wick, but whether they are the actual bones of a sea dragon remains open to dispute. The ribs are huge, but nowhere near large enough to belong to a dragon capable of feasting on leviathans and krakens. In truth, the very existence of sea dragons has been called into question by some. If such monsters do exist, they must surely dwell in the deepest, darkest reaches of the Sunset Sea, for none have been seen in the, in the world for thousands of years.
I almost wonder if that's like a whale. They're talking about like a big whale.
Maybe. Yeah.
I don't know. Okay.
So
Awesome.
yes. So all super interesting. So, okay. So I thought maybe we could just go ahead and kind of skip over to kind of like the houses.
Okay.
Yeah. So each chapter as we get into these tells us just some of the names of the bigger houses. So you have House Greyjoy. Was it Grey? Is it Grey Iron, Good Brother, Wench, Botley, Drum, Harlaw, Whore, and Black Tide. And these are names we don't really hear a lot of, in the books. At least, you know, I mean, like Harlaw, Whore, are some that should sound familiar. You should have heard those every once in a while. But these other ones, Grey Iron, Good Brother, and like Botley, Black Tide, are not names you hear often, if at all, that I can remember.
Yeah, just during the Kingsmoot, like there's, you know, when everybody gets together, there's kind of like a bit of a call, but I don't even remember some of the names associated with those people. But I know that they are mentioned, you know, and Asha kind of is, you know, hooking up with some other guy who she's into, who, yeah, has money and stuff. I can't remember if he's from the Iron Islands or not, but yeah. Yeah, so not a lot of well-known houses there, but you know, is what it is.
Okay, so what about I'm going to talk a little bit about Balon Greyjoy and the rebellion, because it actually gives us a little bit of how Robert Baratheon defeated him. So in 289 AC, Lord Balon struck, declaring himself the king of the Iron Islands and dispatching his brothers Euron and Victorian to Lannisport to burn the Lannister fleet. The sea shall be my moat, he declared, as Lord Tywin's ships went up in flames, and woe to any man who dares cross it. King Robert dared. Robert Baratheon, the first of his name, had won everlasting glory on the Trident. Swift to respond, the young king called his banners and sent his brother Stannis, Lord of Dragonstone, around Dorne with a royal fleet. Warships from Oldtown and the Arbor and the Reach joined their strength to his. Balon Greyjoy sent his own brother Victorian to meet them, but in the Straits of Fair Isle, Lord Stannis lured the Ironborn into a trap and smashed the Iron Fleet. Now, isn't that funny?
Yep.
Right? Isn't that quite ironic?
Oh yeah.
With Balon's moat now undefended, King Robert had no difficulty bringing his host across Iron Man's Bay from Seaguard and Lannisport with his wardens of the west and north beside him. Robert forced landings on Pike, Great Wick, Harlaw, and Oakmont, and cut his way across the Isles with steel and fire. Balon was forced to fall back to his stronghold at Pike, but when Robert brought down his curtain wall and sent his knights storming through the breach, all resistance collapsed. The reborn kingdom of the Iron Islands had lasted less than a year, yet when Balon Greyjoy was brought before King Robert in chains, the Iron Man remained defiant. You may take my head, he told the king, but you cannot name me traitor. No Greyjoy ever swore an oath to a Baratheon. Robert Baratheon, ever merciful, is said to have laughed at that, for he liked the spirit of in the man, even in his foes. Swear one now, he replied, or lose that stubborn head of yours. And so Balon Greyjoy bent his knee.
Yep.
And was allowed to live after giving up his last surviving son as a hostage to his loyalty.
I mean, he's got a point. You know, he did not swear to a Baratheon, so
it's true.
You know, and it's like they took over, and he's like, "Hey, I don't know about this guy." You know, what happened to the Targaryens?
And this is interesting too. Maybe this is a little idea of Theon here. You may dress an Iron Man in silks and velvets, teach him to read and write and give him books, instruct him in the chivalry and courtesy of the mysteries of the faith, writes Archmaester Herrig. But when you look into his eyes, the sea will still be there, cold and gray and cruel.
Yeah.
Yeah, because that's the one character I don't know in the show or the books. I mean, the books he may die, but Theon, that's the one guy I'm like I have no idea what's going to happen with Theon.
Yeah, it's strange. I mean, his story is one that like even Asha, his sister,
right?
You know, it's like what's going to become of those folks, and it's I could actually see them maybe playing a bigger role, you know, like a surprisingly big role, just because of the Ironborn have always been kind of mistreated and haven't really had their like a lot of success, you know. So I don't know.
Yeah. So okay, and then the last little bit here is Pike, just kind of talking about the castle a little bit. Pike is neither the largest nor the grandest castle on the Iron Islands, but it may well be the oldest, and it is from there that the lords of House Greyjoy rule the Ironborn. It has long been their contention that the Isle of Pike takes its name from the castle. The small folk of the islands insist the opposite is true. Pike is so ancient that no one can say with certainty when it was built. Nor name the lord who built it. Like the Seastone Chair, its origins are lost in mystery. Once, centuries ago, Pike was, as other castles, built upon a solid stone on a cliff overlooking the sea with a wall to keeps and towers. But the cliffs it rested upon were not as solid as they seemed, and beneath the endless pounding of the waves, they began to crumble. Walls fell, the grounds gave way, outer buildings were lost. What remains of Pike today is a complex of towers and keeps scattered across half a dozen smaller islands and sea stacks above the booming waves. A section of the curtain wall with a great gatehouse and defensive tower stretches across the headland. The only access to the castle is all that remains of the original fortress. A stone bridge from the headland leads to the first and largest islets and great keep of Pike. Beyond that, there's just rope bridges that connect everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, what if the Iron Islands by the end of this don't exist?
I mean, maybe. Yeah, I don't know.
Maybe, and then maybe we get something where Theon's like, the seas are our castle or something.
Oh, like maybe they moment. Like he finds a way to reunite, actually like bring back
maybe
a power.
Right, maybe.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And I don't know. That's something we kind of think is going to be untouched. Like, is, talking more show here, with the Night King. Like, is the Night King going to head up the Iron Islands? I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah.
That'd be cool. Cause I don't know what Theon's, I feel like there has to be some resolution with Theon and Euron. If it's just Theon kills Euron, that's going to be kind of disappointing, but
yeah, it is. I don't know, man. It's that's one story. That's one thread that's really always had me just baffled, and I've never. Right. I like your idea.
Even in the books, I'm like,
oh, I know. Yeah, I still have no flipping clue. I mean, he's scared out of his mind. He's a completely changed person. How does he come back from being Reek? What is it that he's going to have to do? I mean, he's starting to make some moves, and he gets encouraged by Jane Poole. But yeah, it's not. He's still got a long ways to go. So
yeah. So all right. Well, next week we will be talking the Westerlands, and it is pretty cool. I've skimmed through this chapter already.
Your brother will be happy we're talking about that. Yeah.
Yeah, he will be. He will be quite happy. He's a Lannister purist, I should say.
Yeah.
So.
Oh man.
Okay. All right. Well, let's go ahead and move on over to the reread. Last week we were in Catelyn 6, where her party had finally reached the Bloody Gate, and safely at her sister's request, Catelyn had made the dangerous night ascent to the Eyrie to meet Lysa, her sickly son, and the Nipple.
Yep.
So this week
there it is. Back
to the Nip. This week we are in Eddard 9, but last time we were in Eddard, which was just 2 chapters ago. He and Robert arguing over a plot to kill Daenerys Targaryen when the small council also had sided against him. Ned resigned in protest and prepared to turn to Winterfell until Littlefinger had arrived with some news that he had identified the brothel that Jon Arryn and Stannis Baratheon had visited. So this week, Eddard 9, Littlefinger leads Ned to the brothel that Jon Arryn visited. There he talks to a young whore with a daughter that has the look of King Robert. As they are returning to the Red Keep, Ned's party is ambushed by Jaime Lannister and about 20 of his men. In retribution for the abduction of his brother, Jaime has Ned escorted and killed. Ned's leg is broken during the fight, and he loses consciousness. I kind of have this broken down into two parts because this is kind of a shorter chapter. The brothel and a Lannister always repays their debts.
That's right. Dude, 20 Dragon says that Littlefinger knew about that brothel location well ahead of time.
Oh, absolutely.
And
I'm not taking that bet because I 100% agree. Yeah,
I think he knew, and I think he knew where it was at, and he waited until Jaime Lannister was pissed, or something happened. Or maybe he heard about it and he said, "Oh, now's a good time to go drop that nugget." And I have to drop something so that Ned will stay in King's Landing a little bit longer because he knows that Jaime's coming to,
Oh, absolutely.
Pay his debt.
Absolutely.
So
yeah,
it's just my 2 cents on that. Okay, so into the brothel, right? I mean, why not, right? It's a good place to go, good place to venture. Robert Baratheon's there often. And that's basically what we learn, So let's see. He found Littlefinger in the brothel's common room, chatting with a tall, elegant woman who wore a feathered gown over skin as black as ink. And then by the hearth, Hayward and Buxton Winch were playing at forfeits. From the looks of it, he had lost his belt, his cloak. Oh, right, yeah. They're little strip tease, little strip poker,
Pretty much, yeah.
Right. Well, the girl had been forced to unbutton her shirt to the waist. Jory Cassell stood behind a rain-streaked window with a smile on his face. This is a great little scene. These guys are, Jory's been allowed to go kind of find these brothels and figure out what's going on. You know?
I'm sure Jory's finding a lot in these brothels.
Yeah, he's learning a lot. He's figuring out. He's got to know the ins and outs. How are you supposed to figure out what's going on here? Where these other bastards may be. So, anyways,
actually, I don't know. Jory doesn't strike me as the kind of person who would really partake in a lot of things.
No, but it's like he's hard not to look, hard not to kind of like,
Hey, I mean, sometimes, and you can't go dressed in the king's clothes. You got to go undercover, right?
Right, exactly. Yeah,
you got to go when you're at the brothels. You got to go undercover. So,
right. So are these are his guardsmen, right? Is it Hayward? Is that?
I think so. Yeah, I think so. Yeah,
he's the one gambling, right? So, and then Jory's kind of watching the window there, and so anyways, it's it's an awkward spot for Ned to be in, and he doesn't really know what to do, right? So there's this bit here where he says, so Littlefinger took his time saying his farewells. He kissed the black woman's hands, whispered some joke that made her laugh aloud, and then he sauntered over to Ned. Your business, he said lightly, or Robert's. They say the hand's dream. They say the hand dreams, and the king's dreams. Speak with the king's voice and rule with the king's sword. Does that also mean you fuck with the king's Lord Baelish? He interrupts.
Wow,
right.
Sir Ezra, this is a PG show.
Hey, okay? I'm sorry. It's what it says.
If you could, I swear.
I swear.
Just like HBO, it is PG. So
it's PG. But it's what he says. Do you also mean to the king's whatever? And he says, you presume too much. I am not ungrateful for your help. It might have taken us years to find the brothel without you. That does not mean I intend to endure your mockery. And I'm no longer.
I like that. That's one of my favorite Eddard Stark moments.
Right.
Where he just shuts a little. He's like basically just like, he's still like courteous about it, but he's just like, you need to shut up.
Right. I'm not gonna go with this. Yeah.
Yeah.
So he kind of shuts him down there and says it's time for, let's get to business. Whatever that business may be. But yeah, so. And there's more just a nice little description here. Did they come at nighttime? I think you're right.
Yeah.
Black sky.
Yeah, in the show, it's like in the middle of the day, but
Right.
in the books, it's at night. Yeah.
Yeah, which makes more sense. And also he's in a hurry, to leave.
Right.
So.
Right.
Yeah. But yeah, so he heads down. He's kind of looking around, just at the different maids. He's looking at the different whores and whatnot. And Jory says, will you be going back to the castle now, my lord? Ned nodded and swung into the saddle. So did I miss the part where they actually? Hold on a second. Where's the girl? He went down to see her. Did he not actually? Oh, it's Miss on down here a little ways, isn't it? Says we'd be heading back to the castle, and he nodded. He swung into the saddle. Littlefinger mounted up beside him, and Jory and the others followed. Okay, so he's Littlefinger is kind of explaining their the brothel and where they're going. So he tells Ned that he's considering buying the brothel because the brothel makes a sounder investment than ships, and so he's
Right.
Talking about just the money involved, with brothels. And he's master of coin, right? So,
So basically, what happens is like the way this is told is that they're finishing up at the brothel, and then as Ned is writing back, he's like thinking of it.
Yeah. Right. So that's what I was trying to figure out.
Yeah. It's confusing. When I was doing my notes and I went back and I was like, wait. They talked to the girl, and it's actually like it's like in the middle of the chapter because this is like okay, it's time for us to leave, and so it's just the way it's told.
Yep, and they're heading back. So, as they ride back towards as you said, the Red Keep, he's remembering the night his sister Lyanna was betrothed to Robert. That's tough, thinking about, and I think there's a quote in here where it talks about how this is the part where she says that she knew he wouldn't keep to one bed.
Right.
Yeah. So that's, having that type of foresight way back then. I mean, we just read about Maya Stone and that's one of Robert's bastards as well. So it's, which was known to Lyanna at the time, actually. So from when they were betrothed, she knew that he already had a bastard daughter. So there's that. Okay. But anyways, it's raining, it's dark out, and they're kind of moving along here. So, this is the quote from Lyanna. She says, love is sweet, dearest Ned, but it cannot change a man's heart. And that's sort of one of the things that she's commenting on Robert Baratheon, and
right,
so as you said, a lot of this is him reminiscing about that. So, Ned goes on here. The girl had been so young that he had not dared to ask her age. No doubt she'd been a virgin, but the better brothels could always find a virgin if the purse was fat enough. She had light red hair and a powdering of freckles across the bridge of her nose. And that's important just because, he's going to later look at the different phenotypes, right? He's looking at the characteristics.
Right.
Hair color, freckles, eye color, all that good stuff. So, and when she slipped free a breast to give her nipple to the babe, it's back.
I mean, is this just it's just a common theme?
I'm just reading. It's just, I'm just... he saw that her bosom was freckled as well. And then this is the girl again that Robert hooked up with. She said that she named her Bara, right? Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah.
And, so she looks so like him, does she not, my lord? She has his nose and his hair. She does. Eddard, kind of says there. He's touching this black silk hair. Robert's firstborn had the same fine hair he seemed to recall. So again, thinking back to, to Maya there. Tell him that when you see him, my lord, as it please you, tell him how beautiful she is. Ned says that he will. He promises that he's going to go back, and he's not. And he makes a promise again. I mean, He does lie quite a bit, doesn't he? Oh, Eddard Stark.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
The more we get into this. I mean, hey, he's got to keep these promises, and he comes, I don't know, man. For being a guy who's supposed to be like, that honest, what's the word?
Honorable.
Yeah, and then he's got to keep all these different promises and kind of I don't know. It seems like a facade. That's all I'm trying to say.
Okay.
So.
Sir, you heard it here first. Sir Ezra is challenging the honor.
Well, look
of
what it says. I
Lord
mean, it
Eddard
says,
Stark.
he says, I will. Ned had promised her. That was his curse. Robert would swear undying love and forget them before evenfall, but Ned Stark kept his vows. He thought of the promises he'd made Lyanna as she lay dying, and the price he'd paid to keep them.
Yeah.
So.
Oh, I know that's a huge line that a lot of people dissect for a lot of various theories.
Right. So to me, it's like, does he have to keep these promises because, or I'm sorry, does he tell other lies to keep promises? You know what I'm saying? To keep his word. Is what I'm kind of getting to. It seems like he's had to do things outside of his nature to keep his vows. So
yeah.
So he will return, and he will tell Robert just that. So, but okay, let's see what else we have here. What is her name? The actual girl's name, is it? How do you say that?
Sorry, let me skip back to that part.
Shataya, Chat.
Shataya's, yeah. Shataya's brothel, yeah.
Okay. So anyways, she said that she could have half a year for the baby, and she's hoping that he's going to come back. So you'll tell him that I'm waiting, won't you? So again, she's kind of waiting. She doesn't want any jewels. She just wants Robert's love, which is crazy. This is again like a young, innocent girl that doesn't quite understand what's happening, and I think they're all trying to just let her continue on in this fantasy for a little while, but they're giving her some time until then, so she can take care of the baby. And like one of the things is that this is Robert's, bastard, so
right,
they have to kind of take care of this baby, and they can't really just force her right back into the brothel because they need her to produce milk and still be kind of in good spirits. You know what I mean? Like she needs to take care of this baby, so they're kind of allowing her, I think, to live this fantasy out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Just my thought, anyways. So.
Hold on a second here. Doesn't Ned Stark think about Jon? Where is that at? I'm trying to find. Oh, here it is. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, right here. Okay, so this is a big R+L=J chapter. A lot of people have this. Okay, so Jon, right here. Okay, so just give me 1 second here. So when Ned is looking at the baby, she had smiled then, a smile so tremulous and sweet that it cut the heart out of him. Riding through that rainy night, Ned saw Jon Snow's face in front of him, so like a younger version of his own. If the gods frowned so much on bastards, he thought dully, then why did they fill men with such lusts? So people look at that because just before that he was thinking about Lyanna, and then he was thinking, I wonder if or I have it here. I wonder if Rhaegar Targaryen ever visited brothels. I think not so much. He thinks about that afterwards. So a line almost immediately afterwards. So people say, why is Ned thinking of Lyanna and Jon and Rhaegar all around the exact same time?
Yep.
Yeah, this is a big R+L=J chapter. Man,
what the heck? I
just
like
right. Yeah. So right here. So he has that right. Here's the line. There was no answer. Ned Stark forgive or frown. For the first time in years, he found himself remembering Rhaegar Targaryen. He wondered if Rhaegar had frequented brothels. Somehow he thought not. And then before that, he was is the line, Ned saw Jon Snow's face in front of him. So, and then before that, he's talking about Lyanna, right? About like Robert Baratheon would, never really been true to Lyanna. So he has those three things are all in the same chapter. They're just, spread out a little bit, but you get to see a lot of his thought process in here. And so why is it that he's thinking about Lyanna, and then he's thinking about Jon, and then he's thinking about Rhaegar all around the exact same time?
Yeah, right. Gosh, dude, I don't know, man. That's just tough. Like, thinking about. I don't know, man. I'm really trying to, because now I'm trying to rationalize how. Right. I know there's a lot of good reasons why we say that Jon could be he and Ashara Dane's, child, but it's like,
I know.
Maybe.
R plus L equals J. I still feel like is the truest thing, unless Gur is leading us down a path of like deception, right?
Yeah, because what I'm saying is that easily you when we're with this thought process and stuff, right? We're led to kind of believe R plus L equals J. Got it. But it also could be simply that like he's thinking about. Like, because Lyanna has made comments and has made commentary on Robert's nature and his, bastards and things like that. So
right.
So there's that connection too, where she's talking about all of his, offspring and whatnot, and just his heart and nature. And then it switches to, he thinks about Rhaegar, wondering if he ever I don't know, man. Yeah. I don't know. Why would he do that?
I know.
Why would he switch all of a sudden?
Right. It's just interesting. So.
Well,
anyway,
I got to think about it more. So we'll
let us know. We were sure you guys will bring it up in the group, but so we can.
Let's get back to the nip. All right.
Let's get back to the nip here now. So they leave the brothel, right? I mean, they leave the brothel, and then I'm almost like immediately here come Lannister men.
Yep.
Which is kind of the same way it happens in the show, except here it's at night, and there it's in the day, and then of course we'll get to it here is that Ned Stark and Jaime do not fight in the book, right? They totally fight in the show. It's quite different how it happens.
Right.
I mean, it's still kind of the same outcome. They just do it kind of differently. And again, I think that just has to go back to what we've talked before. They need to build Jaime's character, right? Because Jaime is like, this is the second time the second time we've actually heard him say anything. We're 35 chapters in, and this is the second time we actually hear Jaime Lannister say something, pretty much. So again, the show does some different things. Like there's tons of scenes in the show where those never happen in the books. Like where Jaime talks to Jon about joining the Night's Watch, where Jaime talks to Ned in the throne room. Like him with Tyrion, and you got to see he's actually kind of a cool brother. All that stuff is in the show because the show came out when the books had been out, and we had already gotten to the point to where Jaime becomes a good guy. So if you were just reading the books, you would be like, "God, this Jaime Lannister guy's a dick." Which is cool because that's the character that Gur wanted him to be at that time. So, and he still kind of is in the books. Until really he kind of gets his hand cut off, and that starts his arc changing. But so this is really, it's interesting though. This is the second time you don't really get a lot of Jaime in the books.
Yeah,
until he becomes a POV character.
Right. Yeah, and this is still a really cool scene though. I mean, like just in how like Jory is kind of, they're sounding the alarm, right? They're all pulling their swords out and they're talking. Telling the Lannister men to make way or die, right? And the
right,
and even Littlefinger tries to take his horse forward and says to let us pass. We're expected at the back of the castle. What do you think you're doing? And Ned just says calmly, he knows what he's doing. It's one of those things like he knows what he's doing, and he says it would seem he has met some trouble. Let me go back. So he knows what he's doing. And then Jaime Lannister says, quite true, I'm looking for my brother. You remember my brother, don't you, Lord Stark? He was with us at Winterfell. Fair-haired, mismatched eyes, sharp of tongue, a short man. And Ned says, I remember him well. And Jaime says, it would seem he has met some trouble on the road. My lord father is quite vexed. You would not perchance have any notion of who might have wished my brother ill, would you? And this is the crazy part, is that like, rumor has got back from the end of the crossroads there back to Tywin, and they've said that Lady Stark has taken your son. So that's what they know, that's what they've heard, anyways. And then Ned just goes ahead and confirms it here. He could say, I have no idea what you're talking about. You know what I mean? He could try to,
it's and be like, well, like I don't know, get word, like proof, give it proof. But Ned Stark's like, nah, yeah.
No, exactly. Your brother has been taken at my command.
Deal with it.
To answer for his crimes.
He kind of does.
Ned said. Littlefinger groaned in dismay. My lords, he's like, he knows that this is not That is not the right way. You can't. That's not how you play the Game of Thrones. But that's Ned Stark, and that's why we like him so much.
Right.
But so then Sir Jaime ripped his longsword from his sheath and urged his stallion forward. "Show me your steel, Lord Eddard. I'll butcher you like Ares if I must, but I'd sooner you die with a blade in your hand." He gave Littlefinger a cool, contemptuous glance. "Lord Baelish, I'd leave here in some haste, if I did not care to get bloodstains on my costly clothing."
Yeah.
So it's just like he's ready to kill him, though. He's ready to fight him, actually.
Yeah.
So, and he basically goes on here to Ned's men had drawn their swords, but they were 3 against 20. That's crazy. Eyes watched from nearby windows and doors, but no one was about to intervene. His party was mounted. The Lannister men on foot, save for Jaime himself. A charge might win them free, but it seemed to Eddard Stark they had a surer, safer tactic. "Kill me," he warned the Kingslayer, "and Catelyn will most likely slay Tyrion." So there's that. Go ahead and do it. Go ahead and kill me,
Yeah.
and then my wife is going to kill your brother. That's a sure way for your brother to die. Jaime poked at Ned's chest with the gilded sword, and he says, "When would she, the noble Catelyn Tully of River Run, murder a hostage? I think not. But I'm not willing to chance my brother's life on a woman's honor. So I suppose I'll let you run back to Robert to tell him how I frightened you. I wonder if he'll care." Wow, that's a good point. Would he care? I think Jaime kind of knows that Robert's not really one to. He lets the Lannisters do what they want,
Right.
essentially.
Yeah, he lets them kind of walk all over him.
Right, and then he turns to one of his men and says, that "see that no harm comes to Lord Stark, as you say, my lord." And still, so then his men move in, and we wouldn't want him to leave here entirely unharmed. So through the night in the rain, he glimpsed the white of Jaime's smile kill his men. And then Ned's like, "No," and next thing you know, the fight goes on, and it's just nuts, man. It's they kill him.
Yeah, they kill Jory.
Yeah,
He's gone. They kill Jory, and then Ned's horse kind of falls over and breaks his leg, and that's kind of it.
Yeah.
Well, he says he wakes up and he hears Pycelle treating him, which is like, oh god.
Yeah.
Like he's lucky to make it out of that alive.
Yeah.
You milk the poppy for your pain. He says boil the wine. And that's the last thing he knows. But real quick, you'd said about Robert and siding with the Lannisters. I will say this, of all the Lannisters, it's a shame we don't actually get any interaction between these two. But of all the Lannisters, I would have to imagine that Robert is probably fond of Tyrion.
Yeah, probably. Yeah.
Because, Tyrion would be like his drinking buddy and his whoring buddy. Robert's just kind of that big, goofy oaf, who just likes to party. So he and Tyrion are probably actually pretty close. I would have to, certainly far more than he would be with Jaime and, Cersei.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Dude, this is crazy. That whole paragraph, too, I'm just looking at again, with Hayward and Jory and, the way in which they're being killed, man. It's just terrible. It's like Jory's not – he's kind of a boss. He gets free a couple times and comes in there. Ned goes over and kind of as they're on Hayward, he tries to he swings down at the captain and catches him in his breastplate and his helm too. And it's just crazy. But then, he falls and, breaks his leg. So, and that's pretty much it. Yeah, he wakes up with Pycelle doing his thing. It just it sucks because I really like Jory.
I know.
So.
Well, and Jory is it's. This is where things are really starting to look bad for the Starks, right?
Yeah.
It's okay, Ned quit. Now Ned is injured. Jory just died. Okay, things are not looking so good here.
Yeah. Yep. Not good, friend. So, I don't know. That's pretty straightforward. Just some connections to, Robert's bastards, R+L equals J, and and the turmoil.
Yeah, I mean, no, I mean, just pretty much confirming R plus L equals J. I mean, no big deal. It's
yeah, confirmed. Right. Yeah.
So okay. All right. Well, guys, just go ahead and remind people to send us a Raven. Hit us up on the Facebook group. You can send us at btkcast@gmail.com. But I think, Sir Ezra, that's pretty much our show today, because we kind of already did our Raven with the bigger breakdown of Fire and Blood previews. So
yeah, real quick, if you're looking for more, though, we always have stuff on patreon.com/bend the knee.
Yeah, we'd actually with Fire and Blood coming out, that Sons of the Dragon, we had done a Black Council big breakdown of that. That was like 4 episodes or something.
Yeah, it was nuts.
Yeah, it was pretty lengthy breakdown. Yeah, it was fun. And we have more of those coming. We're here in the next couple of weeks, we'll be doing the second part of the Duncan Egg series, The Sworn Sword. We're almost finishing up. We're almost finishing up here with World of Ice and Fire, and we have Fire and Blood coming out I think about a month from now.
Yeah,
less than a month from now. So
yep.
Stay tuned for that. So all right, guys. Well, it's time for us to sign off. We want to thank you for playing the Game of Thrones. In our next episode, we will be discussing Chapter 36, Daenerys 4.
If you like our podcast, don't forget to subscribe, like us, write a review, leave a comment, or send us a Raven at btkcast@gmail.com.
We'll see you in a week, and remember, Fire and Blood.